Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. The consequences of war in one part of the world seldom remain confined to that region. The war in the Gaza Strip can potentially disrupt the world's global supply chain. Consider this. The Danish company Maersk, which is one of the world's biggest container shipping companies, has now announced that it is suspending its operations from the Bab el-Mandeb region, leading into the Red Sea corridor. While another German container shipping line has also paused its operations through the Red Sea. 40% of all global trade through ships passes through the Red Sea corridor. Although the Houthis have said that they are only targeting ships bound for Israel, the insurance cost for shipping through the Red Sea has now gone up dramatically. And the longer the war in Gaza drags on, the possibility that the Red Sea corridor will be shut for international trade remains a very real possibility. Our next report gets you more details. Container shipping through the Red Sea corridor is in a limbo. The ripples from the apocalyptic war in the Gaza Strip are now being felt in the Red Sea. In incident after incident, Houthi rebels are now targeting cargo ships that are being used for trade with Israel. The Houthis say their logic is clear. So long as Israel continues with its bombardment of the Gaza Strip and continues to enforce its crippling siege, which has resulted in a humanitarian catastrophe, the Houthis, who control the strategic choke point of Bab el-Mandeb, will target container ships headed for Israel, irrespective of the flag they fly. The trouble began on the 19th of November, when the world woke up to this bizarre video of a cargo ship getting hijacked on the high seas. The video shows armed men in fatigues rappelling down a helicopter and taking over the crew of the cargo ship and altering its course towards the port city of Hodeidah. The 189-meter-long cargo ship called Galaxy Leader was operated by a Japanese crew and was carrying a Bahamas flag. Initially, Israel even tried to distance itself from the ship, but it soon emerged that the ship was linked to the Israeli billionaire Abraham Rami Ungar.
The Yemeni armed forces reiterate their warning to all ships affiliated with the Israeli enemy or those dealing with it that they will become legitimate targets for the armed forces, and urge all countries whose nationals operate in the Red Sea to refrain from any work or activity with Israeli ships or ships owned by Israelis.
The strategic location of Yemen at the Bab el-Mandeb choke point means that the biggest escalation of the Gaza War outside of the Palestinian territories is happening at Bab el-Mandeb. Bab el-Mandeb means the Gate of Grief. It is a choke point that is just 20 kilometers wide between the Yemeni island of WION to the coast of Djibouti and Eritrea. An estimated 18,000 ships pass through this stretch every year, which means an average of 50 ships pass through these waters every single day. Approximately 40% of all global trade must make its way through this narrow choke point, which the Houthis can disrupt in case of an escalation. Since the capture of the Galaxy Leader, the Houthis have struck several other ships. On the 13th of December, a Marshall Islands flagged container ship called Ardmore Encounter was targeted with a drone near Bab el-Mandeb. Again on the 13th of December, a Norwegian commercial tanker Strinder was struck with a missile as it was suspected of carrying crude oil to an Israeli terminal. On the 14th of December, Maersk Gibraltar came under attack. On the 15th of December, two Liberian flagged ships, the MSC Palatium III and the MSC Elania, were attacked by missiles, while another ship called the Al Jasra also came under a missile attack by the Houthis. The repeated Houthi attacks on ships suspected of trading with Israel has resulted in Maersk suspending its operations through the Red Sea. The Danish firm Maersk is the second biggest container shipping company in the world, while the German container shipping company Hapag-Lloyd has also paused its operations through the Red Sea.
We now have information that there has been an attack on a Hapag-Lloyd ship. The German government strongly condemns all attacks on ships, including, of course, the attack on the Hapag-Lloyd ship. The Houthi attacks on civilian merchant ships in the Red Sea must stop immediately. But they also emphasize that the security threat to Israel comes not only from Hamas in Gaza, but also from the Houthis.
The United States, which maintains several military bases in the region, has dubbed the Houthi involvement as destabilizing for the region.
We've demonstrated in the past is that our military will not hesitate to take action where we deem it necessary and appropriate, including to protect against actions in the maritime domain that could threaten our forces.
To protect its shipping supply lines, Israel has deployed its new SAR-6 corvettes in the Red Sea. Besides cargo ships, the Houthi missiles have also targeted Eilat at the southern tip of Israel. And the SAR-6 corvettes have been deployed off Eilat for their anti-air capabilities. Insurance costs for large cargo ships passing through the Red Sea corridor have already gone up by tens of thousands of dollars. So if the war in the Gaza Strip continues and more container shipping firms suspend their operations through the Red Sea, then the supply chains linking Asia and Europe will falter, sparking shortages and eye-watering inflation globally. At least 23 Pakistani soldiers were killed and dozens of others were injured in a terror attack in Pakistan's restive Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province on the 12th of December. It was Pakistani military's highest single-day death toll this year in a terrorist attack. The suicide attack was claimed by a militant group affiliated with the Pakistani Taliban, and all 6 attackers were gunned down in an ensuing battle. In the same troubled region, 27 other insurgents were killed in multiple operations overnight. At a time when political observers have already voiced concerns about holding elections in Pakistan that are scheduled for the 8th of February, the question is, what impact will this deadly terror attack have?
Pakistan was jolted by a deadly terror attack early Tuesday morning. A group of 6 terrorists stormed a security forces checkpost in Daraban, about 60 kilometers from the city of Deir Ismail Khan in the restive province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Once the terrorists' attempt to enter the post was thwarted, they rammed an explosive-laden truck into the post, followed by a suicide bombing attack, resulting in the partial collapse of the building. A shootout between the terrorists and the security forces ensued for hours, in which all 6 terrorists were killed. The death toll on the Tuesday attack could rise even further, given that some of the officers are in critical condition.
My name is Meherban, a resident of Daraban. I have a small hotel in this market which is adjacent to the police station which was attacked. You can see the damaged shops. The police station was under attack, the army was under attack. There are many army soldiers killed and wounded. It suffered a heavy loss. May Allah be kind to us.
The responsibility for the deadly attack was claimed by Tehreek-e-Jihad Pakistan, or TJP, which is a new group affiliated with the outlawed terror outfit Pakistan Taliban, better known by its acronym TTP. Terming the attacks as Fidayin attack or a suicide mission, the TJP claimed that 4 bombers belonging to Lucky, Deir Ismail Khan, Swat and Mardan districts had participated in the attack. The terror group, which emerged earlier this year, has claimed several big terror attacks in the recent months. On the 4th of November, the TJP militants attacked the Pakistan Air Force's Myanmar training airbase, damaging 3 grounded aircraft. And in July this year, the TJP militants attacked Shob garrison in the restive Balochistan province, killing 4 soldiers and injuring 5 others. Pakistan has witnessed an escalation in violence, especially in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan, in the wake of Afghan Taliban seizing power in Afghanistan in August 2021. Islamabad has repeatedly claimed that insurgents operate from areas close to the border, a charge that has been denied by the ruling Taliban. In September this year, the caretaker Prime Minister of Pakistan, Anwar-ul-Haq Kakar, had claimed that there are training camps for TTP in Afghanistan. Set up in 2007, the Pakistan Taliban, or TTP, has been fighting the Pakistan security forces for years. Sharing the same hardline ideology as Afghan Taliban, the TTP is closely allied with it, though it is a separate group. Its stated aim is to impose its interpretation of Sharia law in Pakistan's northwest. In November last year, the terror outfit unilaterally ended a ceasefire with the Pakistan government. In an immediate fallout of the terror attack, the Afghan charge d'affaires was summoned by the Pakistan Foreign Secretary to deliver Pakistan's strong démarche. The interim Afghan government on Wednesday pledged to probe the Dera Ismail Khan terrorist attack, but cautioned that Kabul should not be blamed for every issue. Not that it was needed, but Tuesday's terrorist attack, the deadliest on Pak security forces this year, is yet another grim reminder of the threat to peace and security in Pakistan.
In a significant breakthrough, Myanmar's ruling junta and the rebel groups have now agreed on a temporary ceasefire, a result of Beijing-mediated peace talks on the 14th of December. The parties have also agreed to maintain dialogue and to build upon this positive development in the days to come. This silver lining comes at a time when Myanmar has already been racked by a brutal civil war, has grabbed some unflattering global headlines for having become the world's biggest producer of opium. This dubious distinction earlier belonged to Afghanistan, where the ruling Taliban had imposed a drug ban last year. Consequently, the poppy cultivation in Afghanistan has dropped by 95%, while the cultivation of poppy in Myanmar has expanded, making it a lucrative source of income for the rebels during the civil war. Our next poll gets you the details.
The Myanmar junta is facing the sternest challenge to its authority since grabbing power in a 2021 coup. An alliance of 3 Myanmar ethnic minority groups called the Brotherhood Alliance has waged a coordinated offensive since the 27th of October, thereby rattling the military. The offensive, named by the rebels as Operation 1027, signifying the date on which it began, has made inroads into the junta-controlled areas in the northern Shan state, Kaya state in the east, and Rakhine state in the west. Rebels claim to have overrun over 100 military outposts, besides capturing several strategic border towns, which basically cut off the cross-border trade between Myanmar and China. Over 330,000 people have been displaced since the rebels' offensive began. This is in addition to more than 2 million people who have been rendered homeless since Myanmar's military coup in February 2021. The fighting has been a cause of concern in Beijing, which is a major ally and an arms supply of Myanmar's junta. Also noteworthy is Beijing's refusal to label the 2021 power grab as a coup. Reportedly, after weeks of fighting, peace talks were held in China in recent days, which yielded positive results.
We believe that the easing of the situation in northern Myanmar serves the interests of all parties in Myanmar and is conducive to maintaining tranquility and stability along the China-Myanmar border. China is happy to see the parties to the conflict in northern Myanmar hold peace talks and achieve positive results. We are ready to continue to provide support and facilitation to this end.
Beijing is hopeful that the parties concerned in Myanmar will implement the agreements and the consensus reached, exercise maximum restraint, and exhibit initiative in easing the situation on the ground. Some good news was long due in the civil war-plagued Myanmar, especially in the backdrop of it achieving the unenviable position of the world's largest producer of opium. Given the Taliban's crackdown on the trade, it was only a matter of time before Myanmar's output topped Afghanistan.
We all know that what's happening in the country since the since the military takeover in February 2021, and ongoing conflict, governance challenges, worsening economic situations, that all have contributed to the increases in opium poppy cultivation and engagement of farming of opium by farmers.
Opium, which is a key ingredient for the hard drug heroin, has been cultivated in Myanmar for decades and is a vital source of funding for insurgent groups fighting the government. The civil war triggered by the 2021 coup has led to not only an increase in production, but the cultivation methods have become increasingly sophisticated as well because of the use of densely organized plots, irrigation systems, and at times fertilizers. Consequently, Myanmar's opium production this year is estimated to rise by an astonishing 36% to 1,080 tons, which is almost 3 times of the 330 tons produced by Afghanistan this year. The so-called Golden Triangle, a region where the borders of Myanmar, Thailand and Laos meet, has been historically notorious for being a major source of opium and heroin production. Reportedly, this year alone, up to 154 tons of heroin with an estimated value of $2.2 billion has been exported from Myanmar. What effect will the ceasefire, albeit temporary, have on this burgeoning drug trade and effectively on the funding of the insurgent groups? Only time will tell.
Venezuela and Guyana this week have pledged not to use force to settle the over a century-old territorial dispute over the oil-rich Essequibo region. Tensions escalated recently after a Venezuelan referendum on the 3rd of December had rejected an international court's jurisdiction over the territorial dispute. The escalating border dispute, described as a powder keg of a situation, was threatening to spiral out of control. The question is this: will the country's long-standing territorial dispute be resolved amicably and, more importantly, permanently? Our next report gets you more details.
For more than 100 years, Guyana has administered the 160,000 square kilometers region of Essequibo between Guyana and Venezuela. The densely forested and oil-rich contested region makes up more than 2/3 of its territory and is home to 125,000 of 800,000 Guyanese citizens. Guyana's neighbor, Venezuela, though, has long maintained that an 1899 decision by international arbitrators to award the region to Britain, the colonial power ruling over Guyana at the time, was unfair. It claims that the Essequibo River to the region's east forms a natural border and has been recognized as such historically. Litigation is currently pending before the International Court of Justice regarding the border. The International Court has warned Venezuela not to take any action which may alter the status quo. But the authority of the court itself to rule on the dispute has been disputed by Venezuela. Though historically disputed, the tensions intensified after the 2015 discovery of oil in the waters off the Essequibo's coast by the US oil giant ExxonMobil. Sparsely populated and grappling with high rates of poverty, Guyana underwent rapid transformation since then, with over $1 billion in annual government oil revenue. With the transformational discovery, Guyana is set to surpass the oil production of Venezuela and is on track to becoming the world's highest per capita oil producer. It didn't help matters when, in August this year, Guyana started auctioning off oil blocks in Essequibo. Consequently, a controversial non-binding referendum on Essequibo's fate was held on the 3rd of December in Venezuela. An overwhelming 95% voted yes for Caracas designs on Essequibo, or rather Essequibo, as it is known in Venezuela. But the critics of the Venezuelan President Maduro, who has been in power since 2013, claim that the referendum was merely to whip up nationalist fervor and to distract from calls for free and fair elections. Now, after months of escalating discord, the presidents of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and his Guyanese counterpart, President Irfan Ali, met in the Caribbean nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the 14th of December for talks. After a 2-hour-long meeting, they shook hands, a positive sign that could lead to a de-escalation in tensions. The island chain's Prime Minister, Rolf Gonsalves, read a 9-point statement after the meeting.
Guyana and Venezuela declared as follows. 1. Agreed that Guyana and Venezuela directly or indirectly will not threaten or use force against one another in any circumstances, including those consequential to any existing controversies between the two states. 2. Agreed that any controversies between the two states will be resolved in accordance with international law, including the Geneva Agreement dated February 17, 1966.
Skeptics, though, claim that nothing substantive will come out in terms of the territorial claim, given Guyana's position that these are not bilateral talks on the issue, and the matter is in the International Court of Justice.
Absolutely no retreat by Guyana in ensuring that this matter is determined by the ICJ and that the outcome of this matter at the ICJ be respected by all.
Though neither Venezuela nor Guyana could come to an agreement on the proper global jurisdiction to settle the territorial dispute, both offered interest in seeking to lower regional tensions. Also noteworthy is the plan of both leaders to meet again within 3 months in Brazil. The initial signs are promising, and both leaders would do well to build upon the positives of this first face-to-face meeting following the recent flare-up.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World at War. And if you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the ID that you're seeing on your screens. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.